Hey guys, it's Elliot here, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, which is scheduling your week for success. So it's safe to say if you started your health and wellness journey recently, then you've had a lot more added to your plate. You've now got training sessions, you've got cardio sessions, steps, meal prep, etc. And therefore your schedule is going to need some reassessing. It's quite simply not going to work the same schedule you had before because now you've got to factor in all of these things, which is going to take up 7, 8, maybe even 9 hours of your time. This is even more essential that we're in lockdown at the moment and we're having to create our own structure, our own schedule, because we no longer have that workday structure that we used to have. So I want to talk to you today about how to set this up because it's not going to happen by accident, especially things like the steps, the things that can easily get pushed to the side. We have to be 100% intentional about these, and it's really quite simple as long as we put the things in place and we stick to the plan. So I want to give you two examples today of someone who would train middle of the day and someone trains first thing in the morning. So we'll begin by waking up and hydrating. I've put this down as 5:45 a.m. This might be, quite early for some of you, but let's put it this way. If you're someone who doesn't have enough time, then you need to make time. And what you'll see at the end of the day here is that you're going to bed around 10 p.m. Sorry. So I've got you going to bed around 10 p.m. and therefore getting up at 5:45. That's 7 hours and 45 minutes later. Should not be a bad thing whatsoever. So from there, if you're on Monday, so you've got that long walk in the morning, I can't tell you how good a feeling it is to have 6, 7, 8K knocked out in the morning. If you don't have to get to work super early, and I'll tell you how many hours are factored in for work in just a second, then you can extend this for as long as you want. You could get your whole day's worth of steps done in that first bout in the morning. A, it's nicer because there's not so many people out. B, it's just the air seems fresher in the morning, and C, you just feel very, very accomplished. So I would definitely advise this if you're someone who's not super keen on training first thing in the morning, or you could opt for this on the day that you rest. Then we obviously get ready for breakfast and have breakfast as well. I've given you 45 minutes for that, and if your meals are prepped in advance, then you shouldn't have an issue with having breakfast and getting ready within that time frame. Getting down to work between 8 and 10. I personally don't like to extend work blocks over the course of 90 minutes to 120 minutes without a break. I find that your energy is going to begin to dip. Cognitively, you're not going to be as sharp. So 2 hours later, I've just put in a quick 15-minute break, and I'd highly advise you taking this. I know that a lot of us, including myself, are tempted to just work through, and then you would get, you think, oh, okay, get 4 hours uninterrupted accomplished. Not always the case. So if you can, create your day like this, you're not being dragged into meetings, I would highly advise you take that 15-minute break. And then you'll just jump back into work. Perhaps you'll have a coffee here, and then you'll jump back into work for another hour and 45 minutes, and then you'll go into your midday training session. So this is being allocated here an hour and 15 minutes, which should be more than enough. And I've given you an extra 15 minutes here as a bit of buffer room if you need a little bit more time to transition from that training to the shower. And then following that, you're going to get straight back into work. You've got another 2 hours allocated here. And if you are working from home, then you're going to be okay to have your lunch at your desk whilst you're working, as long as you're not in any major meetings. That shouldn't be an issue. And obviously you can work around this depending on the different day that it is. From there, then I've got you having a little short walk. If you're someone who's knocked out those 10K early in the day, you might not even need to. But this serves as a nice little refresh. And although I am breaking my own rule here, I've allowed up to 3 hours in the evening here for a little bit of extra work from 4 till 7. And that's when I would usually advise people to log off if they can, because we need some of our life to unwind in the evening. So we come into the final meal, which comes at 7. There's going to be a little bit of transition time, of course, and that's why I've given you a full hour here. You may want to cook your last meal fresh, and if you've got the time to do so, then fantastic. So I've allocated you a meal, an hour for the meal here. Then you got any remaining steps and just chill time. This is time to spend with your partner, spend with your dog, whatever. This is your time to just relax and do whatever you need to do, potentially catch up on things you couldn't do in the day. More importantly, we've now got some wind down and you time. I can't emphasize how much this is needed. And if we've had quite a full-on day with all of our training, our work, then the wind down time is essential. Ideally, this is time away from screens. Ideally, this might even be time away from your partner. This is just you time. This is when you want to do your self-care, want to do your reading, whatever it is that serves you and fills you up, that isn't so stimulating and screen-based, then this is the time for you. And then obviously you wind down, you get into bed by 10 to 10:30, and then you're ready for the next day. And with that all factored in, that's 8 hours and 45 minutes of working hours. And so I'm sure you could readjust this here and there. You can drag and drop and you'd be absolutely fine. Moving on to the second day for you AM trainees, it's a similar concept. Getting up in the morning, you've got all the same time allocated for breakfast, but except your day is broken up a little bit more by shorter walks. So this one here, we've got a little bit of a work block here. You got that short walk coming in here. This doesn't have to be, leave your house or anything. This might just be around your apartment. This might be out in the garden. But I wanted to allocate plenty of time as, like I said, it serves as a nice mental refresh as well. Back into work here, and then you're going to have a lunch. I would ideally allocate about 30 minutes to actual eating and then 30 minutes to walking, or even less if your meals are prepped in advance, which they should be. Then you got work, you've got another short work, and then you've got another long work block as well. And a little bit different here is rather than having your any remaining steps and chill time, you go for a long walk, and this time you can maybe take your partner along with you, whatever it is. And I wouldn't see the walks as a chore either. I would do something that you enjoy. Perhaps this is your time to connect with your family. Perhaps this is time for listening to podcasts, audiobooks, whatever it is that that suits you. I absolutely love going for my walks because I know it's my time to catch up on those things. Voice messages on WhatsApp to people. This is a really, really good time for these things. Then you've got the essential wind down / you time. There's a little bit less here. And then you've got that bedtime here. But I've allocated 9 hours for working, which should be absolutely more than enough for any of you. And if you are working more than 9 hours, then it might be time to have a conversation with your boss about how much you're working, because there does need to be some boundaries. And then in terms of the next day, I haven't allocated that because I feel like once you have these in place, you can replicate these across the week. Your days are unlikely to change. You might have meetings here and there that you have to work around, but I would ideally just copy and paste this and drag and drop where you need to. If you've got a meeting here, then you just shift something up and shift something down. It might require a little bit of an earlier wake-up call, but that's the case. This is what happens because of it's life, right? So it's not going to work out 100% of the time, but if you have it in place, it's much more likely to happen. On the Wednesday, so to replace any remaining steps, so this might be a good time for when you're doing a training day, because you're training at midday, because all your steps are done nice and early in the day. And this time you can allocate 90 minutes to your meal prep. So ideally you would allocate a meal prep on Saturday or Sunday, so you have meals for the first 3-4 days of the week. Then you would need a second one, which is going to be here. You could do a mega meal prep on Sunday and then freeze the remaining, but I like to do two. It keeps the meals fresher. You don't have to freeze them. You can keep them in the fridge from there, but I think it's essential that you factor that in. I always do it a midweek, so it's either going to be a Wednesday, Thursday, or on a Saturday, Sunday. I like the Wednesday, Sunday, and then you could do 4 meals in advance, 4 meal days in advance, and then 3 meals days in advance. And then if we move on to the weekend, so I like to have loose structure on the weekend. So I love it when I get people's diaries back and they've mapped out Monday to Friday, and I tell them, Monday to Friday is usually fine. You're usually adherent on those days. It's the weekends where things go a little bit wayward. And guess what? Because there's no structure on the weekends, right? We now have to implement our own. And what I like to do is implement a very, very similar thing in terms of the morning times. So I don't want you to get back up at 5:45. You can lay in for as long as you like here, but I got this guy waking up around 7 to 7:15. And then I would definitely start the day with some form of activity, because guess what? Once it gets later into the day, I don't know anyone who signs himself up to train on Saturday night or Sunday night. So get it done in the morning. Make sure that you allocate that one day at least. If you're going for brunch on Sunday morning, then do it on a Saturday morning. Get it out of the way. And pre-breakfast walks are really nice. I've done this probably the wrong way around. Pre-breakfast walk on a Sunday is quite nice, but whichever one it is, choose it and get it done, and then you can have a later first meal as well. Personally, I'm a fan of a little bit of intermittent fasting on the weekend as well, so I like a later meal on the weekend. It means I can have bigger meals. It means I can have a little bit more variety as well. And then when it comes to factoring in your next meals, I like estimated meal times. I don't like I have to eat at 1 p.m. I like to give myself a range. I've given myself a 2 hour range here, but if you could even widen this to 2.5 hours and just say I eat between 12:30 and 2 p.m. here. It doesn't really have to be exact. It's just like roughly I need to eat a meal at this time. And same in the evening. I'm going to eat between 7 and let's say 9:30 and 8:30, I should say. And then you have that open for you. And then it's open for, a little bit of adaptation and change if you need to, but largely you've got some rough idea of when things are happening, which means things aren't going to go crazy. Because if we take this out, we don't have this here, and you don't have an idea of when you have your meal, you might get to this point in the day and you're absolutely starving. So then you make a bad choice. You make something that's not on your plan. And then once that's done, you're like, oh, maybe I should have, my final meal as well. You're like, actually, I didn't eat proper. I'm full from here. So maybe I'll have something like a dessert or a drink or something like that. It's easy to get into that if you don't have this meal. Once you have this high protein, high volume meal, you're unlikely to go make a bad choice here. On to the Sunday, and the only thing I want to make a difference here is if you're going to train, then you can actually factor in a nice long Sunday afternoon walk and combine that with your meal prep as well. This is a really, really good opportunity to catch up on steps that you might have missed in the week. So if, for instance, this doesn't go to plan as well as you get to the end of the week, you need to catch up on average steps, then this is the time to go hard on them. So if you get 10K across the week on here, and then on these 2 days on the weekend, you do 15K because you can allocate more time to your steps. Overall, you're finishing the week at 12K, 13K on average, then this is a great time to do it as well. But what I would do to you with the schedule in general is allocate time on a Friday evening or a Saturday morning, maybe a Sunday evening, and just plan out the week in advance. Put in your non-negotiables first. And I always argue that I'd like to put in my training and my activity first. But if your work is really, really super important and it can't move and you have meetings, then factor in your work first and then factor in your training, your steps, and everything around that to ensure that there's absolute clarity on when you're going to do these things and you make it easy for yourself. If you don't have a plan, it's just not going to happen, or it's going to all get pushed to the weekend and it's going to feel like a chore. So this is the major thing here, just to wrap up on, is that when you do this and you get into a system, it doesn't even feel like it's a pain. If you have to wake up and think about how you're going to squeeze in 12,000 steps into your already super busy day, then you're going to have a nightmare. It's going to be a challenge. And I then understand why people's like, oh, all this health and fitness stuff is so overwhelming. But when you have it in place, you can look at your diary, like a long walk here, I work here, I train and shower here. It's so easy, and this is the point we want to get you in. We want you to be systemized in your approach. And people are like, oh, it's so much structure. And the thing is, it just allows you to complete your goals. It allows you to effectively do things. And you look, right? The fact that we factored in all our week means all of this blank space on the weekend, all this chill time in the evening. And I'm sure that most of us aren't working 8:45 to 9 hours every single day. So there's room for blank spaces here as well. So that's my final note on this. If you aren't someone who's done this before, I'd highly, highly advise doing this. It will genuinely change your life. For me, structure creates freedom. And this is exactly what this calendar provides. So that's everything from me today, guys. I hope this is value. Take care, and we will speak soon.